Alright, so we finished the last video by making sure that our BMICalc object has got all of the things that we need so far. So we're going to start by dynamically replacing this bit of text here with the actual BMI that we've got here. So what we want to be able to do in the display page is very simply, let's go down and find it, here it is. Very simply, what we want to do here is to be able to echo out the BMI. So if it was it 24.1, okay, then what we actually want to be able to see is that. That's what we want to see. We might get rid of that full stop there, because I think that might get confusing with decimal places. Alright, so that's what we want to see. So where is that number? Well, it's here inside the BMI variable of the BMICalc page. However, if we simply try to echo out the variable from our class, so our class, the instance of our class is called BMI, and the variable in our class that's got the value is called BMI. So if we try to echo it out, where are we here? We're going to have some problems. So let's see why. Alright, we've got an error. It says, cannot access protected property of the BMICalc class BMI. Why? Because it's protected. Why did we protect it? Because we don't want calling scripts to be able to access our internal variables directly. But we do need to provide a way of them getting that. So we could provide a public function called get BMI. Oops. BMI. And it has no parameters, and what that's going to do is return this BMI. So let's see. Then in our calling page, instead of calling BMI, we can call the function get BMI. So let's see how that goes. Alright, we've got it. It's not very nicely formatted, it's a big long number, but we've got access now. By creating a function, we've got access to our protected variables. This is a good thing. What this allows us to do is make sure, if we want to, that any function that calls it is allowed to. We can make sure that the variable has a value in it, or we can return some error message. So if the calling program forgot to call the calculate function before they then tried to access the BMI variable, then we'd return them some error message. We can set that up. But you can imagine if we had a lot of properties, we'd have to write a new get function for every single one of those. And that can become really tedious in a very large program to have to do that over and over again. It gives you great control, but it's very tedious. So PHP actually has something called magic functions. So a magic function is not magic, but what it allows us to do is to create a get function where we can pass in some variable name and return back a variable of type that name, or of that name. So if we pass in the string BMI here, this gets here, it says BMI, and so now it looks exactly the same as this. So what we can do with that back in our calling page is we now can get back to what we actually wanted in the first place, where we can just type in that. No, we can't. Unexpected get. Why? Hang on, let's figure it out. It's exciting, isn't it? Public, oops, forgot the word function. Look at that. Of course, you all knew that. Alright, and now it's doing what we wanted. So, what's the big deal, you say? Well, we have that same control over what people from outside our function can access. If I really didn't want people to be able to access the BMI variable, then when I tried to call it, hang on a minute. So obviously, as you can tell, using the magic getter doesn't protect us in this way, which I thought it did, but it doesn't. So that will have more to do with inherited classes, which I'm not going into now. Anyway, this is what we want. Again, just like the custom getter get, we can put in validation here. We can make sure that this magic function already makes sure that it exists. So if we try in our calling file to call a non-existent variable, then we get this error that there isn't a variable called non-existent, which is what we'd expect to see. But we can access the BMI variable. Oh, I have no data. Let's put it back in. 1 meter 80, that's 75 kilos. Alright, and there's our BMI. So, as I said right at the beginning of the first video or second video, there's so many different ways of doing this. What we want to do is only output a couple of decimal places, or let's just go one decimal place. So we're going to use the number format function. Our first parameter is the BMI variable, and the second parameter is how many decimal places. We'll come back here and see that this has been updated, so that's fine. So having formatted the BMI output, we now want to change some of these variables. This one's easy. We have our BMI property, which is got the same name, weight. Of course, we need to echo that out. That's not going to do anything. So now we can display the weight that was entered by the user in kilograms. We can put that back here and give them a bit more information here because it was kilograms that they entered. So that's fine. There it is. Now the height was in 2 parts. So what we can do, we want to put in 1.80. Now here we get to how much do you do in the how much formatting should you do in the presentation page, and how much of that should be handled elsewhere. For right now, we're just simply going to do all of the formatting here. So we'll put it inside a PHP tag, and we're going to echo out the height major, and then we're going to echo out a decimal place, and then we're going to echo out the BMI height minor, and then we're going to echo out meters. So what we end up with then is an error. Unexpected BMI. Oh, okay, let's have a look. PHP echo BMI major plus that, plus that. So concatenating all of that out, and now we've got 1.8 meters. So if we put something else in, let's go with 1 meter 56 and 67 kilos. Alright, these are updated, we've got our new BMI, and these match our object, which of course is what we'd expect. Alright, so let us update the date here. Oops, that's a bit of cheating. We'll update this date here, and to do that we're going to echo out date function, which takes 2 parameters. The first parameter is the format that you want. So we're in Australia, so we go day, month, year. So capital Y for 4-digit year. That's enough just to start with. Let's see what we get. So the 8th of the 2nd, 2019. We are looking to make our calculation a bit more internationalized by using Imperial measures, so we do need to be careful about which date format we use. We could look at the standard database format. We could pop it in something like that. The year, then the month, then the day. That's pretty standard, but not particularly user-friendly. Or you might do something like month dash day space year. Alright, Feb 08. Alright, or any combination that you like. So on the PHP website, here are all the different ways in which you can format dates and times. You can have the month in full. Alright, so we could go full month, day, year. So we've got February 8, 19. If we don't want to have the 8, then we can do numeric representation. Where's the numeric representation of the days? Day, 2-digit, J. So put a J in instead of a D. Then we can get February 8, 2019. And again, there's a whole lot of things. I think there's even, English ordinal suffix. So here we go, we can go S like this, and it will do all that 8th, or 2nd, 3rd, that kind of stuff. And it does it all for you, rather than you have to figure it all out. Okay, so there's 2 more places that we need to update here. So what we want to put into this part here is whether we are in the underweight, healthy, overweight, or obese category. Alright, so what we're going to do inside our class, we're going to create a new variable, and we're going to call it category. And this is going to hold a text value of these 4 categories. So in order to calculate that, we're going to create a new function. I'm just going to get rid of this one because we're not going to use it anymore. So our function is going to be a protected function. And as you remember, protected means that we can't access it directly. We've got this getter. Okay. Anyway, so our we're going to call it category. No, we're not, because we don't. find set. There we go. Set category. And what it's going to get passed in is nothing, because we only want to call it from within inside our calculate function. So once we've calculated the BMI, we're going to call set category. And inside set category, we're going to check that BMI has already been called. So we're going to do a little check. So we're going to say if empty this BMI, in other words, it hasn't been given a value yet, then we might actually just kill the whole thing as a warning to ourselves that the BMICalc calculate must be called before BMICalc set category. So if we try to call this here, what we should have here is this error message. Now, hopefully, as the programmer, you will see that message before this ever goes out to users. There are error checking and unit testing your code is a massive area that I'm not going to be covering right now, but here's a little sanity check for us just to make sure we don't forget to do stuff in the order we're supposed to. So, ensuring that this has already been called, we're now going to check the value of BMH. So, in the documentation here, we've got our ranges for BMI. And again, you can find those anywhere in here. So, there's all information about what the different BMI categories are, but we've been given this information. So, if the BMI is less than 18.5, they're in the underweight category. And you'll notice that the style notes show blue here, and in the CSS page, as I was showing you at the beginning, we've got this underweight class where the background color is blue. So we're going to utilize the fact that the class name is the same as the value I'm going to put into the category. So if the value of BMI is less than 18.5, then this category is equal to underweight. Now, capitals are important. Else, this BMI is less than, so the next category is less than 25. I don't need to say over 18.5 or greater than or equal to 18.5 and less than 25. That is quite redundant. If that is true, then this is in the normal weight range. Again, just make sure, healthy. Sorry, that's a good idea to check that you're calling them the same things. The healthy weight range. Else if this BMI is less than 30, is the next one. Then that is in the overweight. Else that is obese. Alright, so now that we have set the category as part of our calculation function, so we called calculate with the height and the weight, we've calculated our BMI, and now we've set the category variable. So inside our class, inside the page, now we can pop in here the category. And let's go back over here. This places you in the overweight category. That's a bit sad. What about if I magically got taller, but I stayed the same weight? How heavy was it? 67. Alright. Oh look, now I'm in the healthy category. What if I was 1 meter 80 and 45 kilos? I'm underweight. Okay, so one of the style notes that we needed to do was to format the color. If we have a look at a screen that we're supposed to be creating, okay, we've got the background of the text. So again, there's loads of different ways of doing this. I'm going to do it in a simple way. So this is the text. I'm going to wrap that text in a span tag. Okay, so let's put that back inside that span tag. And I'm going to give the span class of this. So I'm simply going to copy this and paste it into there. So this says, this places you in the, here's a span, which has got class of underweight, for example. Then it's going to echo out, it closes off the span tag, then it's going to echo out the word underweight, close the span tag, and we've got category. And so what we should see is that this, although it's not very user-friendly, the background is blue. If we do a calculation where we're in the healthy range, you can see that it's green. If we do a calculation that falls into the obese category, it's red. Okay, so this is working the way we want it to do. Perhaps we can go into our style sheet. Perhaps instead of having blue, we might have something like a light blue. And that way somebody who is underweight, let's okay, so now we've got light blue. If your color isn't changing after you updated your style sheet, then you need to do a hard reload. So one of the ways that you can do that, if you've got the developer tools open, then you can empty the cache and do a hard reload. So you don't want to store this. We have an error. We don't have a favicon. Oh well, never mind. Alright, so that's just a little something that happens because the browser has cached what color that class represents. So it doesn't have to, every time the page reloads, doesn't have to recheck. Alright, I think that will do this video. So that really takes us up to the end of version 1.1. Oh, no, it doesn't. Sorry, it takes us up to the end of version 1. height and weight, calculate the BMI, return the category as formatted in the design notes. There we are. So the next thing we're going to do then is implement the Imperial and metric versions. Alright.